and welcome to Naturally Timeless Photography. My name is Rich, and in this tutorial I'm going to be using the program Affinity Photo 2 in order to make a colorful overlay to create an artistic design for our photos. So let's get started. This is actually a fairly simple project. I've already edited this photo, and it kind of has an artistic feel to it as already. It has more of a painting or drawing look to it, but I do want to add some color to it. Not really, but it's for example purposes. So in order to do that, the way I'm thinking is coming up here to File, left click File, come down to New, left click on that. Now that photo is I believe it's a 6" by 4" photo, but if you make this project larger, you can use it and save it and use it on various different size projects if that's something you want to do, or you can keep it the size of the photo that you're working on. For me, I'm working on a 6 by 4, so that's what I'm going to select for this project. So just left click whatever size you're wanting to use, then come over here to Color, left click on that, come down to Transparent Background and left click that. Everything else I just left what it was standardly set to. Now I'm going to come down here to Create, left click that, and now we have our work area. So to start with on this, we're going to come over to the left side of the screen, left click on this little double arrow here, and typically the third one from the top is what you want. Now I believe this tool changes. We'll try it out depending on what we have selected. So I'm going to select the Eclipse tool, and then we're going to come back over here, and as you can see, the tool that we want selected has changed names. So it's the Eclipse tool now. When I had it before, is the rectangle tool. So it's just whatever shape is selected at the time, it'll be named that. For this project, I'm going to go with a rectangle to start with. Then I'm going to come down here to the Set Background, double click that, and we're going to start off with blue. So I'm going to left click in here on this top sliding scale, and it'll go to blue. Now if I left click and drag this circle here, if you look right here, this color will change as well as down here. So we're going to just go with something kind of darker, a darker blue. That looks good to me. And you could pick whatever colors you want. I'm just picking blue for myself. I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to come up to the top here, left click, drag down. And you could set this as large as you want or as small as you want. I'm going to go with something maybe like that. And that looks good to me. Now, if I was just to select another color right now, what's going to end up happening is if you watch the color here, it's just going to change the color that I've already selected, which I don't want to do. So in order to fix that, we're going to select another layer here. So we're going to come over to this second one right here next to the trash can. We're going to left click the Add Pixel layer. And that's just going to be a starting point. I'm going to name this 1 and then select Enter on my keyboard, and now it is named 1. So that's going to be what I go back to each time I change my color. So we're just making sure that is selected. Come down here, double click, and then we're going to pick, let's see, a purplish color. We'll go with that, and we'll make it a little darker. That looks good. Click close. Now you can make these as light as you want or as dark as you want, but what's going to happen is we're eventually going to make these transparent over our photos. And if they're darker, it actually will get much lighter as we go along, so it's fine. And we can make multiple layers here. So we we could overlay with more than one layer. And I could talk about that a little more when we get closer or are actually doing it. So now I want to make sure one is selected again because I'm going to change color. As you notice, they're kind of overlapping here. That's all right. I haven't seen an issue with that. It's when it's not covered that it kind of makes an issue. So again, double click our color. We're going to go with a green this time. Left click that. I do want a darker green, but I kind of want it a little brighter, so we're going to go up a little more. That looks good to me. Click close. Now we're going to left click and drag down. So we don't want to overlap it too much, but we don't want to leave any white. So now we're going to come back to 1, left click that. There's no white showing that I see, so that's okay. Now we change the color one last time. We're going to go with yellow. Let's go a little brighter yellow. That's good. And come up. And that looks good. So after closing that last screen down, we come over to the bottom here, left click, hold, and drag up until we're covering the purple and the blue enough, but not too much. And this way. There we go. Let's see how that looks. Everything looks all right. Now we can save all of these as one layer. We can do that by coming up to the top, left click, and slide down all the way to the bottom, and then select Shift on the keyboard and left click, and there we go. Now we want to right click on the mouse in that area, and then we're going to come up to Merge Visible. Select that. We get a new layer here. Now this contains all 4 of these colors, so we can now right click and then click Copy. Now that we have that layer copied, we could come back over to our photo, left click on that, and then come over to the background here. We'll want to make sure that's selected, and then we right click on that and then come up to the top here, and then we select Paste. That'll paste the layer that we created from the other section over our photo. Now we want to come over to the Move tool, so left click that, and then now we could just left click on one of the corners here and drag it over our photo, just enough that it is covering our entire photo. Same with the top here. Just drag it a pinch up and make sure it's covering our whole photo. And now what we're going to do is come over to the opacity. So left click that, and then we could slide this down to as light as we want it or keep it as dark as we want it. So something like that looks okay to me. We got, the purple didn't come out too well, or the blue. That's where I was saying we could save 2 separate layers, and then that way we could, change the opacity of it individually from those 2. So the blue and the purple didn't come out as dark as I want. If it was darker, that kind of has a nicer look, but then the green and the yellow are too dark. So if we save 2 separate layers, we could change them individually. And I'll do that in a second. But we could set this to where we want it. That looks okay. It's not the best, but it's okay. Now that we have that selected, I just don't like the fact that the grass is green. It just looks like regular green grass. Kind of changed the look I wanted. So what I'm going to do, this is easier than coming up to arrange and then doing the vertical and stuff. Since I'm already on the screen, I just rather left click and drag over to there, then grab this side and drag over here, and there it inverts it, and I got a nice look. And then this, you could just kind of drag it over to wherever you feel it looks best. Alright, so that looks good to me enough. Now if you do want to change some of the artistic look to it, you could go over here where it says normal, and then just slide over these and see what looks good to you. Now, it's also changing some of the other effects, so we just kind of want to pick what artistically looks good to you and then select that. I'm okay with what it was at. Normal is fine for what we got. But as we talked about before, what if we want to work with this having two separate layers and changing the blue and the purplish one? Well, let's get rid of this pixel layer. We could discard it all the way, or you can just hide it. I think I might just hide it. And then we'll come back to this, and we're going to delete this pixel layer, or you could actually save it. You could save that and then use it for later. To do that, you'd come up to File, come down to Export, and then make sure this is selected as PNG file. I usually have the JPEG selected, but since you want this transparent, you want to save it as a PNG. And then you could just click Export, save it where you wish, and then add it to your photos later. So we're going to just get rid of that. And I'm going to get rid of this completely, so just come over to Delete. Now what I'm wanting to save is the rectangle one, so I'm going to left click that, make sure it's clicked, and then we're going to come down to the blue, and I'm going to click Control on my keyboard. I am using a Windows computer, so if you're using a Mac, I think it's Command that you would select. I'm not positive, but I'm selecting Control. It's been a while since I used a Mac. And then from here, what I'm going to do is left click, and then I'm going to merge those two. So merge visible, and then, oh, that wasn't right. So I'm going to delete that again. Let's see if it lets me do what I want to do. So the purple is already selected. We're going to come down, Control, and then we're wanting to merge selected. It's not letting me. So what I'm going to do, since it's visible is only being allowed for some reason, what we're going to do is we're going to make everything else invisible. So all that is visible now is the purple and the blue. So I'm going to come up to purple, left click that, and we're going to slide down to merge visible. Okay, so we got a pixel layer that is visible, and then that only has those two selected. So now I'm going to make invisible, invisible, make the yellow one visible, make the green one invisible, and then we're going to add the green one. There we go. So green and yellow are now visible. We're going to left click, come up to merge visible, and now we have this pixel saved and the green and yellow saved. So we're going to do two separate things. We're going to come up to the blue here and make sure that's selected, the blue and purple, left click, copy it, and then come over to our photo. We're going to go to our background, and we're going to left click on that and then paste. Alright, so we have that selected, and we're just going to drag this one, get it set where we want it to be. Now remember, just a pinch over, make sure it's just overlapping a little bit. That's alright. And then we're going to go back to our layers, and then we're going to come down to the... Now if this is hiding, like I'm just moving this, I can't see, oh, there it was. But it's like, it's hard to get it to go to it. If you're having trouble finding one of your layers, you could just use this arrow key or left click and hold and slide this down until you see it. So we want this one, so left click it, make it sure it's highlighted blue. Then we're going to right click, we're going to copy this one, come over to our picture again, left click that, and then come to background and right click and then paste. Now we have this one, And when we drag it over, just do it till you get it over. And then as you can see, now there's a little gap there. So we want to drag this part up until we don't see any of the background photos. And right there looks good. So scroll back up. Everything looks like it's covered. Now what we're going to do is the green and yellow are selected. Come up to opacity, left click that and slide it down to where you want it to be. Okay, so that looks all right. Now we're going to come up to the blue and purple, left click that, make sure it's highlighted. And we're going to go with the opacity again, left click and then left click and hold and drag until we have the color the way we want it. That looks all right, but remember, I don't like the green here. So what we're going to do, we're going to get our blue layer and purple layer, left click and drag it to this side. We're going to move that over, and then we're going to left click and drag this one over. So now we got this, and then we want to select our green and yellow layer, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to drag this one over and then drag this one back over this way, and we want to bring this over so it's where it needs to be. Now with this, if you could tell, it's not exactly where it should be. It's a little more likely we're going to get crossing lines here. You know, it's going to have some overlap. But everything looks all right enough. Now we could fine tune, say we want the yellows and stuff a little lighter. We can do that, or we could add more. You could also make solid layers of just one color and then put them where you want and do them individually and save those for later. But this looks good enough. And then remember, you can always go to where it says normal and change your artistic look to it. So if you want it vivid and lighter, lunar lighter, you know, actually I kind of liked, where was it? This one. I think I like that one. The vivid, it changes her face. It kind of looks blotchy, so we'll come to that one. That looks good. We'll go back to this one, and the green and yellow are kind of matching up. So if we go over here, see what we can change. And when we find something we like, we'll just click on it, and then we could change the opacity, make it darker or brighter depending what we like. So like I was saying, this is just an example of something you can do. You don't have to stick with what I did. You could add shapes if you want to put a heart on one corner, a circle on one corner, and then they don't even have to touch each other. They can overlap if you choose. You could change any color you want. You could do a number of things with this. It's just a starting point for you to kind of start building on your artistic skills and, you know, find something that works for you. So typically I would not change the photo with something like this, but with other art projects I might. But it looks good now. It's a good starting point for you to just kind of go off of, and I hope that it was helpful and that you get a little inspiration from it. All right, thank you for watching and have a good day. Bye.